evidence that FTX was a deep state plan to capture cryptocurrencies. Now, the cryptocurrency market has gone crazy with FTX blowing up the entire ecosystem this past week. And the amount of information exposing the negligence and the fraud around Sam Bankman-Fried, or SBF as he's known, and FTX and Alameda is almost never ending. But what if this wasn't a big fraud or an innocent mistake, but instead it was a deep state operation to capture cryptocurrency once and for all? So the state, the elites, and the powers that be can maintain their power and grasp over money and capture crypto for good. Well, in this video, I'm going to break all this down and lay out the receipts, as I call them, showing the endless rabbit holes underneath FTX and the deep state plan, including who was behind FTX and their sister company Alameda, who backed them, what their ties were with the governments and globalists, what the ultimate plan was, the goal of using the state and regulations to capture crypto, and how it all came crashing down. But it's not over yet, so let's go. All right, welcome back. We are going to wake up more people with this video for sure. We are going to expose what the deep state is doing with regulations inside the cryptocurrency space. I'm about to blow your mind. I'm asking in advance if you could just take this information, think about it for a little bit, and then go discuss it with other people. Now, before I jump into this video, I want to say real quick, I'm looking for you. I'm looking for people like you to come work on my team. We're looking for copywriters, we're looking for researchers, we're looking for social media people. If you'd like to work in the Bitcoin, macro, crypto, freedom space, then come join my team. There's a link down below. You can check it out. Also, I'm having a live presentation. I do them about every other month where I have a big chart of what I think the Fed, the central banks are going to do and how we're going to respond. There's a link down below if you'd like to come join me. I'm doing a live presentation with live Q&A. Check out that link down below. I'd love to have you if you'd like to know what I'm calling the central bank's playbook 2.0. All right, now let's go ahead and just jump right into the video. Now we're gonna dig into FTX, but I did a video last week explaining how it worked, how FTX and their sister company Alameda created this environment, how they created value out of thin air. So I'm not gonna rehash all of that. I already did it in a long video. I'll link to it at the end if you wanna watch that to learn how it worked. But now I wanna expose who's behind it and what this real ulterior motive is. Okay, so first of all, the media loved FTX. They blew them up. They were the darlings, so to speak. Every financial person was talking about them. The big VCs, they all invested into them. You know, we got Mr. Wonderful, Kevin O'Leary with lots of money, all the big VC firms in there. We got, you know, athletes like Tom Brady and his wife Giselle. They're invested into it. Of course, the financial elite on TV, Jim Cramer from Mad Money. He says that Sam Bankman-Fried, SBF, doles out credit lines to save crypto institutions. He's the new JP Morgan. So he's like trying to make a king. Oh, he's the guy. He's the best. He's super smart, right? So everyone started building him up. Of course, Fortune magazine ran him on the cover, calling him the next Warren Buffett. I mean, everybody was trying to say this is the smartest guy, this is the guy, the next guy, the king, etc. He was going around rubbing shoulders with celebrities as well as politicians. Here we have him with Tony Blair, Bill Clinton, of course, SBF, all together, cozy, buddy, pushing for legitimacy and more. We'll come back to that in a minute. So everybody was building him up. He was the guy, the wonder kid. But where did these people come from? Who is behind all of this? And that's what we're going to dig into for a second. So, a gang of kids. This is what has come out since. There's an article written right here. It says that Sam Bankman-Fried, SBF, his crypto empire was run by a gang of kids in the Bahamas who all dated each other. I'm not gonna dig into that. That's a whole nother rabbit hole of some really weird stuff. I don't really wanna go into that, but it was a gang of kids. So how did this gang of kids manage to build the second largest cryptocurrency exchange? Now, I'll come back to this, but the first largest cryptocurrency exchange is Binance out of China. The second one is out of the United States. There's something going on there. But how did these gang of kids, so to speak, that all like to party and date each other in the Bahamas, how did they manage to get the second largest cryptocurrency exchange in the world and rub shoulders with the world's most connected and political elite? Who is behind it? So as I explained in the other video, which I'll link to at the end, there was a sister company. There was FTX, and then there was Alameda. And they worked together to fraudulently make valuations. Now, Alameda was run by his girlfriend, Caroline. And just so you can see who was really behind it, here's Caroline right now. Let's just hear directly from her.
Yeah, absolutely could pull it off without my math degree. Use very little math. Use a lot of elementary school math. Being comfortable with risk is very important. We tend not to have things like stop losses. I think those aren't necessarily a great risk management tool. I'm trying to think of a good example of a trade where I've lost a ton of money. Well, I don't know. I probably don't want to go into specifics too much with that.
All right, so you heard it directly from the CEO of Alameda, the market maker, supposedly the most sophisticated, the most advanced market maker, trading company, investment company, $10 billion. She ran it, talking about how she doesn't use complex math. She doesn't use stop losses for risk management. And that's who was running the money. She also would tweet things like this, just so you know. She posted this on Twitter. Nothing like regular amphetamine used to make you appreciate how dumb a lot of normal, non-medicated human experience is. So we got kids that are drug addicts that don't know what risk management is, managing tens of billions of dollars. But who is actually behind this? And that is the question. And Hedgeye ran a video here that kind of broke some of this down. Let's go ahead and play this video.
How does this guy, how does he keep doing what he's doing?
When anyone tries to pin SBF down on where he made his money, you can't get a cogent answer. And in his trade, you needed real money up front in the place on this country crypto arbitrage to make big money.
Right.
And it's simple things as who financed you, because you clearly didn't have the money. And his partner is a guy named Gary Wang. And no one can find shit on Gary Wang. And he's on the board of advisors of Sequoia. And I shit you not. You look up Sequoia stuff, there's a picture of Gary Wang of his back facing a computer. There's no picture of Gary Wang.
So Gary Wang is the same CTO or the Chief Technology Officer of FTX?
Allegedly.
Okay.
Allegedly. But there's a Chief Regulatory Officer of FTX, and his name is Dan Friedberg. And if you Google Dan Friedberg poker scandal, he was the general counsel of, I don't know if it was Ultimate Bets or one of those Me Too sites, where they basically cheated against players.
All right, so there was lots of stuff going on here. Lots of shady people, like Gary Wang. Who is this guy? Why do we only see the back of his head and not the front of his face? We don't really know who he is. And Dan Friedberg. Dan Friedberg, who is the Chief Regulatory Officer, yes, in charge of regulations, has a very shady past with Ultimate Bets. Now, what's important about Ultimate Bets is that what they were accused of is having this God code where they could see the hands, they could see the cards of all the players. So there was a back door. They had a back door so they could see the hand and they could bet against them. And now he happens to be the Chief Regulatory Officer of FTX. Pretty interesting. Who else is behind it though? Well, let's take a look at his parents. Now there's some very coincidental things here. Now this might be coincidence, all right? I'm gonna draw your attention to that. So April 25th, 2019, Biden announces his presidential campaign. 13 days later, SBF, son of Barbara Fried, co-founder of political fundraising organizations, launches FTX crypto exchange. Maybe coincidental. The exchange is an overnight success and SBF becomes the biggest donor to Biden. So I don't know, maybe there's something there, maybe there's not, but let's go ahead and just look at some more of the dots that we have here. All right, so let's take a look at the parents for a minute. So if you notice, SBF, Sam Bankman-Fried, has a hyphenated last name. Why? Well, because both of his parents kept their original names because they were accomplished in their careers. Well, what type of careers were those? Well, let's take a look at that. So we can see Barbara Fried, for example, which is his mother, they're both attorneys, and she was in charge of distributive justice in the areas of tax policy, and property theory, tax policy. Keep that in your mind. Then we have his father, Joseph Bankman, over here, also a professor of law, and he was in the role of tax in the structure of Silicon Valley startups. Okay? How government might control the use of tax shelters, and testified before Congress and other legislative bodies on tax compliance. He ran initiatives to end cash, to crack down on tax fraud. So both of his parents were involved in that, both professors, both accomplished in their own right. Both of them collectively were also massive donors for the Democratic Party. They were what's called bundlers, so they would gather large amounts of money and donate to these super PACs. So they were very connected. Now on top of that, that's SBF's parents. What about his girlfriend Caroline's parents, Caroline ran Alameda, the sister company? Well, it just so happens that Caroline right here, her father right here is Glenn Ellison. And it just so happens that Glenn Ellison worked under Gary Gensler, and Gary Gensler happens to be the head of the SEC, Securities Exchange Commission. So Gary Gensler used to work under Glenn Ellison, who is the father of Caroline, who is the boyfriend-girlfriend of Sam Bankman-Fried from FTX. Now, what's also interesting about that is Sam Bankman-Fried graduated from MIT, where both Glenn Ellison and Gary Gensler were both professors. Lots of dots to be connected here. So who is behind this? Gary Gensler, head of the SEC, the Democratic Party. Let's keep digging and see if any of these dots actually connect. How about if we go even bigger than that, past the Democratic Party, past the regulatory bodies in the United States, and what about to the globalists? All right, so we can see that FTX is a World Economic Forum partner. Pretty interesting. Listed on the World Economic Forum website. Since been scrubbed. Of course, the World Economic Forum does that when they don't want to be associated with anybody else, but we can see, thankfully, that the Web Archives keeps a record of that. In addition, we have Sam Bankman-Fried's brother, or Gabriel Bankman-Fried, and we can see that he is also politically motivated. He created something called Influence Watch, guarding against pandemics, and it's a left-leaning advocacy created in 2020. This is from their website. A left-leaning advocacy created in 2020 to support legislation that increases government investment in pandemics. So they want to push more policies and more regulations to lock people down. It was created to support a specific proposal by the Biden administration to allocate $30 billion in federal funding. Let's create some organizations to go get some of that $30 billion from the government. Grifters, yep. Founded and is funded by cryptocurrency billionaire Sam Bankman-Fried and directed by his brother Gabe Bankman-Fried. We can see right here, tax-exempt status, 501c, founder Gabe Bankman-Fried. In addition, we can see that they are also guarding against pandemics, are raising money. This is a super PAC, right? So they're raising money for the Democratic Party. We can see here from 7/1/21 to 10/19/2002, they have total receipts of almost $400,000 that they raised as a super PAC for that. And we can see right here that crypto billionaire Sam Bankman-Fried pumped $40 million into the Democratic Party before the midterms, which just happened, just days before the bankruptcy scandal happened. Sam Bankman-Fried, SBF, saw his business, cryptocurrency exchange, FTX, file for bankruptcy after it funneled $40 million to the Democratic Party. So, his parents are professors who specifically work in areas of trying to ban cash and enforcing tax policy. They're also major Democratic bundlers, if we will, raising money, donating to super PACs. His brother also started a business that will hopefully get money from the government, as well as donating lots of money back to the Democratic Party. He also has ties to the regulatory body with his girlfriend and Gary Gensler, the head of the SEC, and somehow this exchange was started just after Biden announced he would run, and they became Biden's second largest donor. Now, I don't know, maybe it's just all coincidence, but at some point you want to think that, man, maybe these dots are more than coincidence. In addition to that, as I said, he has ties to the World Economic Forum. It's on their website, FTX. And it's not just Sam Bankman-Fried and his mother or his brother or his girlfriend's dad. It's also his auntie, Linda P. Fried, listed right here on the World Economic Forum website. A scientist in epidemiology, as a matter of fact, from the Johns Hopkins Medical Institution. Now, you might remember that name, Johns Hopkins, because they took part in the pre-pandemic games that were ran before the actual pandemic came out. Yes, they were the ones that ran that. So it's his brother, it's his mother, it's his father, it's his girlfriend and her dad, the SEC, the World Economic Forum, and even his aunt are all parts of this. Now, like I said, some of this might be coincidence, but as they say, where there's smoke, there's fire. On top of that, it says right here, Democratic megadonor with Ukraine ties under federal investigation. With Ukraine ties, what are we talking about here? Because now we're really going globalist. Well, it says right here that the cryptocurrency exchange that filed for bankruptcy on Friday is headed by Democratic Party megadonor Sam Bankman-Fried, SBF, and under investigation by the Commodity Futures Trading Exchange, and they donated massive amounts of money to Ukraine. We can see the report right here. It says the FTX connection to the Ukraine government and the World Economic Forum. Curiously, coincidentally, the Ukraine government launched a cryptocurrency donation website in March that was backed by who? It was backed by FTX. Aid for Ukraine, which has the backing of crypto exchange FTX. We've already talked about, we already kind of know that wars like what's going on in Ukraine is a way to funnel money right back into your pocket. Well, not my pocket or your pocket, but pockets by the connected few. And now they just happen to launch a cryptocurrency initiative, which of course, who participated in? That's right, FTX, with ties to who? Yes, the World Economic Forum and the Democratic Party. It says Aid for Ukraine is cooperating with the cryptocurrency exchange FTX. I know, coincidence, right, Mark? It's got to be, just coincidence. You're drawing too many lines. Well, let's keep digging. Okay, so now that we know about the coincidences or the ties between the parents, the regulatory body, the SEC, the World Economic Forum, Ukraine, all of that, now why? What's really going on here? What are they trying to do? Well, this is where we get into this deep state operative to capture crypto. And what am I talking about? I'm talking about regulatory capture. All right, so we know that Sam Bankman-Fried, SBF from FTX, has deep ties to Gary Gensler from the SEC. We already know that because his girlfriend, Caroline, who runs Alameda, the sister company, her father worked under Gary Gensler. We know that, but what we also know is that Sam Bankman-Fried, FTX, who came out to be the savior of the cryptocurrency space when Terra Luna went down, which then Three Arrows Capital and Voyager and Celsius and all those went down, he stepped up to bail out the whole industry. And because he was the savior, then he went to Washington to now impose his new regulations. So he saved the world, and now he's going to tell the whole world what the new regulations are. As a matter of fact, we can see here, Sam Bankman-Fried backed bill, so he backed a bill to regulate digital assets, and it finds support from several senators in wake of the FTX collapse. So he went to Washington and said, hey, the industry's all messed up. I saved it. So, I'm a savior. And since I saved it, I can tell you how bad it is. And let me tell you the new rules that we should be putting under. So he was trying to capture the industry, or what happens with regulations is they build themselves a moat, preventing other people, competition, from coming in. And that's exactly what he was doing. We can see more right here. It says Sam Bankman-Fried was lobbying the CFTC, Commodities Futures Trading, for greater oversight over the digital asset marketplace. So he wanted to have more oversight. He wanted to be the one to make the rules. It says here, the FTX CEO also spent hundreds of thousands of dollars lobbying lawmakers and the CFTC on legislation that would expand the scope of the agency's role in regulating the crypto industry. So he spent lots of money in lobbying, bribing, if you will, both lawmakers and the CFTC to expand the scope of what they do. Of course, that he could drive, that he could direct. Of course, that would benefit him the most. It goes on, we can see here, It says, as FTX aggressively, well, it says here that before the CFTC's probe into the Bankman-Fried, the former head of FTX aggressively lobbied the agency, aggressively spending lots of money, working really hard, lots of trips to Washington, and funded several key lawmakers overseeing it. So not just lobbying the agency, but he found the key people and he even went after them harder, pouring cash into their campaign coffers. They include lawmakers from the Senate and the House Agriculture Committees, the agencies that, of course, oversee the CFTC. Who are they? Remember these names. Include the committee's chairwoman, Senator Debbie Stabenow, Democrat from Michigan, the committee's ranking member, Senator John Boozman, Republican from Arkansas, and the ranking member of the subcommittee on commodities, risk management, and trade, Senator John Hoeven, Republican from Montana. Look, this isn't about a Democrat, it's about a Republican. They're all dirty, all right? Republicans and Democrats in here together. In addition to lobbying regulators of his own industry, Bankman-Fried was once one of the Democratic Party's preeminent donors. As a matter of fact, the second largest. He gave Democrats nearly $37 million in the 2021-2022 election cycle, surpassed only by everybody's favorite lobbyist, George Soros. I'm just kidding. Nobody likes him, and nobody likes SBF either, especially not anymore. All right, now this is what happens. All right, so just so you know, the biggest scammers, the Ponzi scheme originators, they actually work in the government. It's the government that allows this to happen. You think regulations are there to protect you, but no, regulations are there to allow these scammers to operate. We can see here Bruce Fenton, who recently ran for office. He didn't get elected, unfortunately. He says, reminder, Bernie Madoff, of course you know that name, synonymous with Ponzi schemes. Bernie Madoff ran a $64 billion Ponzi scheme. SBF was only $32 billion, so, rookie numbers. $64 billion Ponzi scheme and was the largest fraudster in U.S. history, so SBF had some room to go. Madoff was also simultaneously the chairman of the largest securities regulator in the U.S. So he was the chairman of the securities regulator while he was running the largest fraud. The NSDR, now known as FINRA, Madoff also sat on advisory committees at the SEC. He was part of the SEC when he was doing this. It says, a forensic accountant and securities expert sent a detailed 17-page whistleblower report detailing Madoff's fraud, including specific false trades he was doing. 17 pages detailing the whole thing. It was ignored by the SEC. I wonder why. Madoff's son-in-law worked at the SEC, and his brother was his compliance officer. Sort of like Sam Bankman-Fried and his girlfriend and the father and Gary Gensler and the money going to the CFTC. Yeah, sort of like that. Now, we can see that, as I said, he was buddy-buddy trying to impose these regulations to capture the industry, capture it with regulations. Of course, it all backfired, and now those very regulations he was trying to put in place are the government's, they're the new regulations they're trying to put in place. We can see here Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen says crypto must be regulated after the FTX collapse. So, was it a false flag? Did the deep state just allow FTX, did they build FTX? Did they use it to artificially pump this up, provide money back to Ukraine, back to the Democratic voters, and to get in and make a big deal with regulations, start to propose all these new regulations, and then blow up the entire space for even more reason why it should be regulated? Well, if you think that's enough evidence, let's keep going, because I have even more. What about the rest of the cryptocurrency space? So it's not enough to just capture what they had. They want to take out everybody else. So they want to take out everybody. They want to take out all the major players. And then they want to put so many regulations on it that nobody else can rise back up. If we get rid of all the big players that have the money, who's going to fight the regulations? All right, so now they want to capture cryptocurrency. So, first of all, the companies, they create money from thin air. FTX, they create this FTT token. Their sister company, Alameda, pumps out of nothing and creates fake value. Now with these fake tokens that they fraudulently created value for, then they can borrow against those or cash them in for dollars. And then they take that money and start manipulating the market. And what they do is they start taking down crypto companies. Now, what am I talking about? Now, you remember I've covered this at length. If you've been following the cryptocurrency space at all, you know that really this all started happening in about May of 2022 when Terra Luna collapsed. When Terra Luna collapsed, then it was a domino effect and it took down everybody else. Then it took down 3 Arrows Capital, and then it took down Voyager, and then it took down Celsius, and it's only cascading. Well, it looks right here that we are going, well, it says here that SBF, Sam Bankman-Fried, is responsible for the Terra Luna crash. Everybody wonders, who is the one that took them down? Who is the short seller? Well, turns out it looks like it's Sam Bankman-Fried is the one that took down Terra Luna that caused the cascading effect. It says that CZ, the founder of Binance, knew that. SBF intentionally took down 3 Arrows Capital. So first he took down Terra Luna, then he took down 3 Arrows Capital. Then Sam Bankman-Fried moved user funds from FTX to support Alameda because Alameda, his sister company, was also caught up in the carnage. So what they did is they took users' funds, if you had money on FTX, your money, and fraudulently moved them over to Alameda to prop them up because they also caused damage for their own company. It says that CZ from Binance approached Sam Bankman-Fried but was ignored. So then CZ tweeted as a last resort saying, hey, look, we want to get rid of our money. Now, so they took down the major players. So he took down FTX, took down Luna, it took down Voyager, it took down Celsius, it took down 3 Arrows Capital. All right, what's next? Well, who are the other big players? Well, one of the other big players that US regulators have been trying to get for a really long time is Tether. Tether is a US stablecoin. It's the largest. It's the largest stablecoin. It's the oldest US dollar-backed stablecoin. It's the largest US-backed stablecoin, but it's not a US-backed company. Of course, the United States regulators don't like that. They want to capture crypto. Now, they've been going after Tether for many, many years, and they haven't been able to get Tether. But what if there was another way to get Tether? So, Tether had loaned over $1 billion to Celsius. It had loaned billions of dollars to crypto companies. So, if they have billions of dollars of exposure and we can collapse those companies, we might be able to show that Tether doesn't have the money they need to have the redemptions. Maybe they don't have the backing they say they do. This could have been an attempt to take down all the biggest crypto players, including Tether. Now, that's quite a big jump, Mark. Are you sure? Well, like I said, they've been trying to take them down for years. We can see here, US regulators orders Tether to pay $41 million in fines. The US has been trying to get them. They've been filing lawsuits. They've been filing all types of orders to pay fines. And if you can't get them the legal way, let's get them the dirty way. And that is to take out all the players in the cryptocurrency space, and then we'll expose Tether for what it is. It says another cryptocurrency target for US regulators is, yes, Tether. We want to get them out. Why? Because the US wants to control the US dollar stablecoin market. With who? With USDC by Circle, which is by Goldman Sachs. Of course, the US, banking / government agency that controls the stablecoin, the regulated stablecoin. They don't want the largest stablecoin out there that's not controlled by a US company. They want to get rid of them, and that was the move they did. We can see here, on top of that, FTX had gotten approval to run the only US crypto derivatives exchange. The only one in the United States. FTX had approval. Now, here's where it gets even more interesting. So FTX had that. When FTX started going bankrupt, Binance, the #1 exchange, who is not a US-based company and the US regulators have no control over, said, hey, maybe we'll give you an LOI, a letter of intent, to bail you out. We'll take you over. Now, in the original order, the FTX was going to give up their international companies, but not FTX US, which owned the derivatives exchange. But then Binance said, wait a minute, no, we want the whole thing because you have the only US crypto derivatives, and we want that as well. Now think about this. Maybe this was the bait being dangled for Binance to lure them in. Because if Binance were to come in and acquire FTX for next to nothing, and get the derivatives, now the US regulators would have full access to all of Binance's books. So they could take out all the major players, Terra Luna, Celsius, 3 Arrows Capital, etc. They could take down Tether, and they could even capture Binance all in one fell swoop. Amazing how well that could have potentially worked out, but it didn't. Binance backed out, FTX went down. Now, FTX went down, but does that mean that the crypto industry isn't captured? Well, let's take a look at this. First of all, will Sam Bankman-Fried be forced to pay? Will FTX have to pay for what they've done? I don't know. Has he paid enough protection money to the mob? Look, come on, you already know by now. The government is just organized crime, just at a different level, right? Organized crime got smart. They figured, hey, why charge our baker in the neighborhood for protection when we can just take over the United States and have everyone pay for protection? So has he paid enough protection? Will the SEC, will his girlfriend's dad's connections with Gary Gensler at the SEC, will all the money that he spent at the CFTC, will that protect him? I don't know. We also know that FTX isn't even a US-based company. Brian Armstrong, who's the head of Coinbase, says here that FTX.com was an offshore exchange, not regulated by the SEC. So does the SEC even have control? It's a Bahamas company. They don't even have control. The problem is that the SEC failed to create regulatory clarity here in the US, so many Americans, investors, and 95% of trading activity went offshore. Did Sam Bankman-Fried and his connections to Gary Gensler know that? That if I set up in the Bahamas, then the SEC can't reach me? Did that money he spent and those connections with his family pay off? I don't know. Time will only tell. All right, now, what happens next? Well, crypto's been captured, all right? All the big players have been taken down. Tether is out on its own, being attacked. And now all of these regulations that Sam Bankman-Fried had been pitching to the CFTC and the SEC are now going through, right? This is the new battle cry. Like I said, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen is saying they must be regulated now that FTX collapsed. So was this a false flag? Did they build it up, take everybody down, funnel the money out of Ukraine, fund all the Democratic Party, and then blow up the whole space so they can impose all the new regulations? I don't know. I'm connecting the dots. I'll let you draw your own conclusions. But what comes next? All right, I believe what comes next is a massive cryptocurrency crackdown. Massive. We're going to see Elizabeth Warren already shouting from the rooftops, we need more regulations. We're going to see Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen. Everybody is going to be demanding regulations to protect customers. Now, what would be a good start is if the Democratic Party would give back the $40 million they just got. That would be a right step, but of course they won't do that. Now here's the thing, and you're probably not going to like this. 99% of cryptos are securities. Now look, don't kill me, don't kill me. Look, I'm all for disbanding the SEC. I'm all for having no security laws. I don't think the government should be telling us what we can do with our money at all. But this is where we are. We do have security laws. And I'm no security expert, but we do have things like the Howey test that tell us what a security is. And a company that issues a token, has direction over the company, is a security. It just is what it is. I don't like it, but it is what it is, all right? I believe that Ethereum is a security. Now, the SEC and the CFTC have been very clear that Bitcoin is not a security. They've said that, but they haven't said any other ones. Now, just in the last 2 weeks, we saw a token called Library, LBRY, get taken down, and the SEC said this is a security. And I believe that Ethereum is a security as well, and I think after the merge, Ethereum's even more of a security. The reason why is because we can see now we have a group of people that are steering the direction of the company. In addition, we have all these user funds that are now locked up. That is a security, and I believe that's what's coming next. So they're going to use this to capture the entire crypto industry. 99% are securities. Now, exchanges, what's going to happen with them? Now, lots of exchanges, Crypto.com looks very sketchy, Huobi, KuCoin, Gate.io. I would not keep money on any of them. Look, the whole point of having Bitcoin and cryptocurrency is to self-custody. So why do you keep it on exchange? Go get whatever money you have at your tokens and get them off of exchanges. But I would expect many of these to go down next. And many of them are trying to do something called proof of reserves, POR. And so they're just trying to show, look, on chain, look, we have the tokens that we say we do. You can trust us. We have the money. I wouldn't trust them. What's the point? The whole point is to custody your own coins. Get them off. All right, now another thing. The people, you're not going to like this, but we say Bitcoin, not crypto. People are seeing that there is a massive difference between Bitcoin and crypto. What do you mean, Mark? They're the same thing. No, they're not. Bitcoin is the only digital asset that doesn't have an issuer, a commodity. The CFTC and the SEC said Bitcoin is a commodity like oil, like gas, like wheat, like gold. Gold, wheat, oil do not have an issuer. Yes, I can go buy a piece of land and mine gold. I can buy a piece of land and drill for oil. I can buy a piece of land and grow wheat. I can buy a computer and I can mine Bitcoin. But there's no central issuer of those, unlike every other cryptocurrency. All the other cryptocurrencies have an issuer, a group of people that released the initial group of those tokens, all right? Now, I do believe this is going to give a black eye to the industry. I would say over time, we're going to see all of these become securities. We're going to see the exchanges have to be registered as security dealers. Most of them won't be able to do that. Most of the companies won't be able to register as securities because it's very expensive and it takes a lot of time. They're probably going to shut down. Most of the exchanges won't be able to do this. So they'll probably get rid of all the US users. They'll move offshore into some shady jurisdictions where they can work in securities but not with US people. So if you're in the United States and you're watching this, you probably won't be able to take advantage of them legally. And that's going to be kind of the beginning of the end for the cryptocurrency space. Then whatever companies actually think they have a viable product, they could go through the process of having a security and they could start again. And we'll see a lot of these companies actually rebuild on the Bitcoin blockchain. That's what I think. However, we got a black eye and it's going to take a while to go through it. Most people don't understand why Bitcoin is not crypto. Do you? Hopefully this made it. Maybe I need a whole separate video just on that alone. You can leave me a comment and let me know if you want me to break this down in a whole nother video. And that's what I got. All right. Now, I do want to say I'm hiring. I'm looking for some great people. If you'd like to work with me on research and social media and writing, I'd love to have you. Check out the link down below if you'd like to have a job working with me. Also, I'm having a live presentation where I'm going to dive deep into what the central banks are going to do based off of this information and what we're going to do about it. I'm going to go live for about an hour. I'll do question and answer. There's a link down below if you'd like to join me. Other than that, that's what I got. So give me a thumbs up on this video if you like it. If you don't, you can give me a thumbs down. That's okay. But please at least leave me a comment. Tell me why. And of course, hit that subscribe button if you're not already subscribed. And that's what I got to your success. I'm out.